Hello, everyone. We're just going to wait a couple of minutes to get all of the attendees online, or those who can make it, and then we'll start shortly, okay? Those just logging in, feel free to tell us where you guys are visiting us from. And when you send something in chat, make sure that you send it to everyone. There's a drop-down setting. Maybe give it one more minute. From South Africa, from Cape Town, Stockholm, Sweden. Welcome. And from Italy, lovely. Pretoria. Okay, I think we can start so long, and anyone who jumps on afterwards, I guess they can just catch up. So, hello everyone. Thank you for joining our Agile 42 webinar today. Today's theme is titled Managers Just Be Human: Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging Through an Agile Lens. Presented by Executive Coach and Certified Scrum Trainer Regina Martins. If you have any questions that you would like Regina to answer over the course of this webinar, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A section, and Regina will tackle them near the end of the webinar. We will also be recording this session and send out a recording afterwards via email. Make sure to connect with us via the web. We'll post all of our social media links in chat. And I think we can get started shortly. So I'll hand over to Regina and enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Ernst, and welcome to everybody that are here today. And echoing something which those of us who, well, I think it's most of us are in Agile, we know about open space technology. The people who are here are the right people. So let's get started. So before I actually share my slide deck, one thing that's really become very apparent for me is that inclusive workplaces are really key to transformation. So removing all the noise that's been going around the world around DE and DEIB, inclusive workplaces are key to transformation. And rather than organizations complying to equity laws, why not make it a commitment to have really inclusive environments and see how things evolve? Because everything is a system. As organizations become more inclusive, it starts having a ripple effect around its ecosystem. DEI or DEIB, which is really what we call it here in South Africa, because B stands for belonging, and I'll go through that in a moment, is it's not just about race, it's not just about gender, it's also about things like disability. All types of disability falls under the umbrella of DEIB. And for me, the B, which is what we have here in South Africa, which stands for belonging, is really what unlocks the magic of truly inclusive environments. All right, so let me share my slide deck now, and let me just share this. Right. Oh, hang on a second. I just need to make sure I've got the right window. I'm not sure if you're just like me, but I've got multiple windows open at the same time. So let's go. Here we go. All right, so let me just do that one and let me just put the slide share. Okay, there we go. So let's get started. So yeah, DEIB through an Agile lens. And as I reflected on this webinar, I actually thought that Agile by its very nature is something which is inclusive, and it works because it is inclusive. It does prize and want diversity of thinking. And then it is also about equity, ensuring everyone has the resources that they need in order to get the work done. So let's go. Well, so I know some of you, you know some of me. So I train and I coach, and I really enjoy creating truly inclusive environments. And the magic that happens when you have multiple types of thinking, different types of people in a room, and the magic that they create when it comes to coming up with ideas and taking things forward. So I love helping organizations create inclusive environments that help people thrive. So that's little bit about me. I won't spend too much time there. Then what I'm going to cover is why this matters. Why is this important? And then I want to just briefly talk about how groups evolve, the evolution of groups. In our context, as agilists in corporates, many of us, it's the team, it's the squad, call it whatever, it's a group. It's a group of people that come together in order to achieve a goal. And then the link to DEIB. And then Susan Wheeler's IMGD, which I'll cover today, is a beautiful frame that actually encompasses and enables the link to DEIB. I'll finish off with some key insights and a closing reflection, and then we will be open for questions. So why this matters? Well, it matters because corporates are becoming, well, they are global. We are not, even though those of us here in South Africa and some of you are in your own countries, we are no more just working in our own little countries. Things are truly global, and we are working with many different types of people, many cultures, and especially since COVID, when things just opened up. When I started training virtually to groups around the world, and how the nature of the classes just took on a life of their own. And it's important that DEI or DEIB is more than just a CSI project or a corporate buzzword or something that you just tick as, okay, boom, we've done it. It's about creating resilient, adaptable, and progressive teams. And quite often, Scrum Masters, Agile coaches, we think about groups or teams to watch out for things like groupthink. Well, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging is a way to ensure that you have multiple diverse perspectives. So D is for diversity, as you know. Equity is the E. Equity, of course, a lot of people confuse equity and equality. Equality is pretty much giving everyone the same resources, but it assumes that everyone has the same starting point. It assumes everyone has had the same opportunities. Whereas equity, that's equality. Equity, on the other hand, does not assume that everyone has had the same starting point. And equity is about providing the resources to people based on their needs. Inclusion, and B, which is really beautiful, is B is for belonging. So it's about leaders from managing work to cultivating belonging. I do a lot of training, and it is incredible how many corporates are still, and it's really a function of the size of the companies. I truly understand that, are still very much focused on managing work, managing tasks, rather than focusing on things like value, and to cultivate belonging. So the role of leadership, is not to manage work and work tasks and not to manage people, but to cultivate belonging. When I say leaders, I'm not saying it's people with a title or positional power. We're all leaders in what we do. Everyone's a leader. And that's what I mean by leaders. Yes, some people are in those positions, and we all are leaders in what we do. So, a little bit about how groups evolve. And this is Dr. Susan Wheeler's integrated model of group development, or IMGD. And it really provides a roadmap of how groups evolve. And what Susan Wheeler did is she took all previous group or team developmental models like Bruce Tuckman and the Katzenbach and Smith, for example, and she's taken all of them, considered all of them in the research that she did, and created a five-step model. I'm only presenting four steps here, or four stages, because the fifth stage is the termination stage, which is really akin to Bruce Tuckman's adjourning. Now, project teams terminate or adjourn because the project starts and it ends, and then teams disband and go on to another project. In Agile, in agility, teams are typically product teams, long-lived teams that do not adjourn or terminate because they are just working together in a dedicated manner. And how groups evolve is also not linear. It appears to be a linear process that a group will go from stage 1 to 2 and then 3 and 4 and stay in 4, but it's not linear. Anything can happen where groups might go back to stage 2 by virtue of the fact that the group has changed. And any small change can have an impact on the group. For example, somebody new joining the team, or a team leader resigning and no longer being there, the product owner moving on, and so on. And those are just people changes. It could be anything that could change the evolution of the group. Another very common way that groups actually change and evolve is when you have a new manager, or a new CIO or CTO or COO or CEO coming into the company, who then goes about changing things. That is going to impact on the evolution of the group, or where the group is at a particular point in time. So I'm going to cover each one of these stages according to different frames. Briefly, stage 1 is where groups find themselves right at the start. She calls it dependency and inclusion, and people are seeking inclusion, and they are highly dependent on the leader at this point. Stage 2, it's counterdependency and fight. It's when people start owning their opinions and the conflict arises. Stage 3, in brief, it's trust and structure. It's where trust starts emerging, and structure, people start becoming a lot more comfortable how they work. And stage 4 is work and productivity, and you could actually say that groups are performing at that particular point in time. The link to DEIB, as mentioned, it's not a once-off event. DEIB, especially when you look at it in the context of Agile, it's a developmental journey. It's something that develops over a period of time, and it evolves and it matures based on the right conditions being in place. Each stage of the Susan Wheelan model presents its own challenges and opportunities. And neurodiversity as a dimension is because neurodiversity, along with other differences, play an important role in our companies. It's the advantages of different ways of thinking, different ways of sensing, and making sense of things, and processing information, picking up patterns, and ideating in a way that is truly inclusive. Now, Susan Whelan's model, stage one, dependence and inclusion. It's really where leaders establish the conditions where belonging begins. They create the enabling constraints that help belonging take root. And it begins with safety and it begins with clarity. So the leaders have an important role to play in helping to create those conditions. I'm talking about it from the perspective of Agile and our companies and our teams. Of course, you can also always abstract up into our societies and into our governments around the creation of those enabling constraints for economies and people in countries to thrive. So you can always abstract these things up, although my context is the team and organizations and people doing work in companies. Dependence and inclusion has got certain dynamics. So the team is very dependent on the leader. So people join a team for the first time, they're looking to be told what to do. They're looking for guidance on what the work is, what are the processes, what are the procedures. And when people come into a group or for the first time, there's fears about whether they're going to be accepted, whether they're going to be, whether they're going to fit in, whether they will feel safe being who they are and showing up as who they truly are, rather than masking and pretending to fit in when they actually don't. So people want to fit in. Everyone comes in and wants to fit in. They want to find their place, their role. What are they doing here beyond the skills which they bring to the team? And in this stage one, teams may engage in what we call pseudo work, such as engaging in things that are not work related. So people are still trying to figure out who each other is in this whole ecosystem. So they might do things and engage in activities and in stories that may not be relevant to the group goals, because at this point they're still trying to figure out what the group goals, what the goals are, what the purpose is, what the ways of working are. So they're still looking for a lot of guidance. Um, okay, apologies for that. I'm just pressing the wrong button. Okay, I found the right button. Okay, so just to make sure that I've got, yeah. Okay, the operator behind the computer doesn't know what she's doing with the computer. Okay, so some neurodivergent aspects. People will mask themselves as who they truly are. They will try to fit in and follow and the conversation as to where it is, because they're still trying to figure out whether it's safe to participate and to show up as they truly are. And at this point, it's not only neurodivergent individuals, it's also people might be reluctant to be expressing viewpoints that might not be seen as popular, because what the purpose of the pseudo work from the previous slide is that is a way for people to get to know each other. They are getting to know each other as individuals. The focus of the leader is to facilitate working agreements, establish norms, but also establish things around what is respect. And respect is many different things to different people. And whenever someone says, I want to be respected, or respect is important for me, it's very important that the leader says, all right, well, let's unpack this. What is respect for every single person? And let people talk about what respect means for them, to tell stories or share stories of when they were respected and when they did not feel respected. because only when we understand what respect means for every single individual can we truly know what respect means for us as a group, for us as a team. Leaders also need to show that they're not just paying lip service to diverse perspectives and that they are truly believe in the strength and resilience that truly diversity actually brings. And there are many different techniques which can actually help many different types of individuals, such as not picking on people to speak or contribute, to encourage groups to work together, small groups. It can be quite intimidating for big groups to come together, and in that case, you might get a situation where the loudest voice is the voice that it takes over. So it's ensuring that people are working in structures that are small enough that they feel comfortable contribute. And also the structured go arounds is everyone has a voice, everyone has the opportunity to contribute. So stage 2 is counter dependence and fight. Leaders need to turn tension into trust by valuing the differences as valuable rather than as something that is disruptive and needs to be managed. And the dynamic of stage 2 is that safety starts to grow at this stage. It's not there yet. It's still early days. And the team members become less dependent on the leader. The leader, if they've done the right thing in stage 1, they will have helped the team with what those norms are, what those structures are and those processes. And at this point, people feel safe enough to be able to start speaking or speaking their opinions. And when that happens, disagreements happen, and you get differences coming up and being surfaced, and conflict arises. And conflict doesn't just arise out of thin air. Conflict starts from a simple disagreement or a simple difference of opinion. And it's being able to uh, let people express themselves rather than burying that conflict. It's very important to allow conflict to happen and to allow people to speak their truths, because it's critical for equity, because it's going to bring up things like biases. And when you bury these things, then a team will never move beyond into a state of safety and psychological safety. Neurodivergent aspects is things like communication styles. Neurodivergent individuals may interpret conflict differently. In fact, they may totally avoid conflict. So they might vacillate between the two ends of the spectrum. And if leaders don't know how to value people's contributions, then individuals might risk feeling not being misunderstood and being ignored or ghosted in some ways. And also, it's an understanding that communication styles themselves may cause some issues. So someone who's direct and blunt may come across as rude versus, well, this is how they communicate. So it's helping to bring about that level of understanding. So leaders, you need to create safety for disagreement. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to have your own opinion, and it is also okay for people not to always be in agreement. You don't want people to think the same. You don't want things like groupthink, and you also don't want a team where everything is just okay and hunky-dory, and if you look underneath the carpet, there are some deep issues. So being able to normalize conflicts, yes, it's scary. Conflict is scary, but it's part of learning and it's part of how a team develops. So being able to mentor the team in how to deal with conflict is very important, Because if conflict is avoided or badly handled, then patterns of not feeling included and belonging can actually deepen. Um, Acknowledge different communication styles, and also ask the question, especially in large groups discussions, um, whose perspectives might we be missing here? In other words, have we heard from everybody? Has everybody had a turn? And asking that question is quite powerful. Whose perspectives might we be missing here? Then step number 3 is about trust and structure, where leaders move from just talking inclusion to support the team, that to create systems that actually make it real. So the group dynamic is the group has come through stage 2, and now they begin integrating their differences because they now know how to talk to each other about it. They have a language uh, to use when talking to each other about what their differences are. And differences isn't just race, gender, and difference. It's a difference of opinion. It's the different approaches to work, different approaches to how they see the world and how they interpret different things in their environment. Of course, you can imagine that collaboration becomes a lot easier. And at this stage, the team is no longer dependent on the leader to tell them how to work. So it's at this point that they see the value of co-creating team norms and team agreements that are explicit and clear, that there are no misunderstandings in what those agreements are. At this point, the team realizes that they are dependent on each other. They're interdependent, and that their work, the results of their work, has impact on other people's work. So collaborating becomes critical for this. And at this point, they also feel comfortable negotiating things like who's going to do what. This is my role, but I can help with this. And they start negotiating how to do the work as well, and who are the best people to do the work, who can add the most value, how can we play to people's strengths. And this is the stage where it's inclusion in action. It is built up to this point. All voices are integrated, and it becomes part of how the team actually works together. The if neurodivergent aspects, so the tendency is that team organizations are designed around neurotypical individuals, and hence so are team norms and processes and ways of working. So it's about ensuring that the team norms are not weighted towards neurotypical individuals. Things around how people contribute and participate in the meeting, eye contact, synchronous versus asynchronous communication, the ability to work without being interrupted, and the ability to contribute in a way that somebody feels safe and secure to do that. Not making people feel they have to fit in and conform to something that hasn't been designed for them. So it's not pressuring people to conform. So, for example, and I'll give you an example. A lot of teams like to have their cake Friday, or their on a Friday everyone goes for a drink, or now in virtual hybrid environments, a lot of teams are coming together once a month for a braai, or they go into the office once a month for social purposes, not to pressure individuals to do that kind of thing if they don't feel comfortable doing, and at the same time, not excluding them from the group dynamic because of that. So don't enforce social bonding, right? Make it optional and let people decide. Assume positive intent, and I put always there because leaders and everyone needs to assume positive intent right from the start. Never assume that people have negative intent. Assume positive intent. So, and assuming positive intent is Um, Looking at as someone and removing your own biases to try to understand and empathize as to what the positive intent is about the behavior of someone. So it's not about the person, it's about the behavior. And something else which is quite useful because things like visualizations of work and making the work agreements explicit and clear is about visualizing them. Kanban type boards, whether they are in person or electronics, make workflows explicit. So there's no doubt around how things get done. The focus of the leader, of course, is to support everything that I mentioned before and to facilitate the co-creation of those flexible agreements. And at this point, teams are exploring um, how much authority do they have to make decisions? What decisions can they make? And leaders need to create the forums for to have these types of discussions. So helping the team understand how decisions are made in the organization, but also what decisions can the team make and have an open communication, an open discussion about that. Encouraging extra leadership at all levels. I have mentioned it before. It actually starts becoming real and possible in stage 3 because safety has gradually been developed over the last couple of stages. Um, at this point, it is also the time where it is okay for team members to start giving each other feedback because feedback is going to be a lot more realistic. Typically, what happens in the previous stages is that feedback is a very surface level and it is very much focused on the positive. Yes, I like the way you work, or what you did was great here, and so on, rather than it being constructive. And it's not about it being negative, but it's about it being constructive. People feel that they have more secure that they can provide that constructive feedback to each other. So when implementing any kind of feedback, giving and receiving in the team, understand at what stage the team is and when is it valuable to actually start doing that rather than doing it before where the feedback might not have much value. And then leader, you need to model positive intent. So it's all very well to say we need to um, assume positive intent, but what does that look like? So leaders model positive intent. Stage 4 is the final stage that I'm going to deal with because, as mentioned, stage 5 is termination. We're not talking about that because teams typically continue beyond and there are long-lived teams. It's about work and productivity. And at this point, leaders move into allowing teams to become self-sustaining or self-managing, but also where inclusivity, where diversity, equity, inclusivity, or inclusion is actually self-sustaining, and where neurodiversity fuels excellence. And stage 4 is where the B of the DEIB actually plays a huge role. It's where you start seeing it. This is the stage of true belonging. And the dynamic is the team starts becoming increasingly self-managed. They don't need they don't need instruction anymore. The leader has played a huge role in helping the team become self-managed, but part of self-management is the clarity of what those constraints are, those norms are, and so on, which the leader has actually helped facilitate. Um, the team feels that they own their destiny, so they know what they need to do. They are working on goals and outcomes. They know what they need to achieve, and they know how to get there. So they feel they're in control of how they work, rather than having to look for direction. They have that direction, and they don't need leadership to intervene in how they do their work. And this is where belonging is actually realized, where all of this becomes part of the team's identity. From a neurodivergent aspect, people feel valued for the contributions, and that differences, diversity in any form is valued as and accepted as an advantage. Um, and also at this stage, because the team is producing and performing well, it's very important not to fall prey to the deadline trap, where teams are forced to become efficient. In other words, try to work faster rather than actually doing the right things. It's about effectiveness versus efficiency. So even though teams work with deadlines, that those never go away, it's important that the race to meet a deadline is never ever it never ever takes priority over exploration and research and conversation as well. Um, so when there is a race to a deadline, uh, how about it if the team asks themselves, well, how can we combine all our differences together so that we can do things faster, that we can become more effective? Because a team that's effective is a team that is fast, not because they are working overtime, but because they're working smartly. So that's very important. Speed, or a team that is consistently delivering on good quality work, is a team that is effective, first and foremost. Um, so neurodivergent individuals might still hesitate with undertaking informal leadership. So the active leadership at all levels might actually be quite daunting. But it's about allowing people to play to their strengths and not forcing people to use their strengths. So it's a very different dynamic. The leader focus, well, step back, let the team self-manage around the work. Don't manage people, manage the work. The people will do the work. Let the team define belonging through social contracts, shared purpose and contribution. Let people feel truly valued for what they bring to the party, and continuously improve, maintain that learning culture, because this is a developmental model, and things emerge and things change, and it's continuously checking for gaps. It's how teams become effective. It's always looking at how could we do this better, and okay, well, that didn't work, and it's always checking for those learning gaps. And also at this point, a team is performing well, and they could become complacent, and always be mindful of this. Psychological safety is critical at this point. Well, all over. So those are the four stages of the Susan Whelan IMGD, and it's very useful to look at Agile and DEIB through an Agile lens. So just some final insights. Um, Inclusion and belonging are developmental processes. They're not tick boxes. They deepen as trust increases. The more trust there is, the more psychological safety there is, then trust increases. Psychological safety also allows people to disagree constructively and build trust as a result as well. And when that happens, you start getting real belonging. Neurodiversity is not a challenge to be managed, but an advantage to be celebrated. And it all starts with psychological safety, almost as a golden thread that gets thicker and thicker as the team comes together, and as trust increases as well. And closing reflection before I stop sharing and see if there's any questions is something which was in the body of our email. It's about authentic human connection, allowing people to be vulnerable at work, to bring their whole selves to work, to empathize with each other and try to understand where people are coming from, assuming that positive intent, because empathy can only happen when you are assuming that positive intent. Genuinely caring for people's perspectives and not just paying lip service to we are diverse. Really, are you? And actually committing to that. And it creates foundations for resilient teams, resilient companies, and it creates sustainable performance over time. And the most powerful transformations happen when people, the beauty of the complexity of human beings are allowed to be part of an organization, the working environment that people are going into and spending a lot of their day in, that they are able to be themselves and bring their whole selves to work. Because we, as human beings, we are systems. We cannot compartmentalize and leave your proverbial problems at the door. We can't do that, right? We are who we are because of the systems around us and the systems we belong to as well. So it's not about adding more process. It's not about process, but it's about genuinely leading in a more humane manner. All right, so that's now it's question time. I'm going to stop sharing, and there we go. And cool. So let's see. Okay, so we have a question. And the question is, I'm curious about a simple to apply means to assess the stage the team is at. For instance, where there isn't a large amount of time available to do this by observation. Yeah. Okay. So um, one way to do this is, and I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna use the Scrum values, the values of Scrum, the 5 values of Scrum, as an example, and that a simple way to assess is to get the team to self-assess where they are, and you can use the Scrum values as an example. So it's a facilitated workshop where people self-assess on the Scrum values uh, relating to the work that they do. So people can rate, they can do a self-assessment on themselves first, and then they can talk about it, and then have an assessment of themselves as a team. Also, when it comes to each of the Scrum values, is what in the environment is helping them live the values, and what is actually hampering them from living the values. For example, the value of focus. In as much as someone wants to focus and has the ability to focus on something, what in the environment is actually preventing them from focusing? Is it because the sprint backlog is currently being changed? Are the goalposts constantly changing? So what in the environment is causing people not to be able to focus? So not looking at the people, but also looking at the environment, because in organizations, it's the environments that create the, or that, yeah, I'll use the word create, the behaviors that people display in that environment as well. So you don't get bad people, you get bad environments, or you get bad cultures or unsupportive environments and unsupportive cultures. And observation might take a week, 2 weeks, a month. Doing it in a rapid workshop, facilitated workshop manner by a skilled facilitator or two, depending on the size of the group, is something that can actually be done a lot faster than actually observing for a few weeks. Yeah. How would one differentiate between bullying and conflict? Wow. Yes, bullying and conflict. That is, I suppose actually it's not a fine line. There's actually, or first of all, how people feel when being bullied and when there's conflict might be the same. And bullying is deliberately picking on someone, uh, personalizing something about someone, like you are this or you always do this wrong. So personalizing and not allowing that person to uh, respond. So it's a one directional thing. So it's almost it's one directional, right? So the person doesn't have time to respond. So somebody says you broke the build, it's your fault, and they walk away. That's bullying. Um, Whereas conflict assumes, well, constructive conflict assumes that um, when someone is in disagreement or in conflict with someone else, that they are truly interested in understanding the other person's perspective or viewpoint, which is causing the friction. So it's bi-directional. And people who know how to deal with conflict constructively don't personalize it. It's not about the person, it's about, what happened. It doesn't always happen that way. Yes, it is always about, you did this. Um, but there's an expectation that the other person is going to contribute to the conversation rather than it being a situation where uh, could be perceived as bullying, where someone is picking on someone and doesn't let the other person contribute to the conversation. Let me just check to see if there's anything in the chat. Hang on a second. There we go. All right. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think that's about it. If anyone has any last minute questions, pop them into Q&A now, and then we'll quickly tackle them before the time runs out. Okay. While we give that a minute or two, uh, I'd like to end with if you'd like to connect with us on social or sign up to our newsletter and stay in the loop for any future webinars, you can check the links in chat. The recording for this webinar will be sent out via email. So if you'd like to receive that, please feel free to sign up and get notified. And thank you for everyone who joined today. It was great having you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.